Oh, and there's the speaker. Hello, Mr. Speaker.
Good evening, Your Worship. Nice to see you again.
Yes, nice to see you too.
We're all set, Your Worship.
Okay, thank you, Troy. I'd like to call the regular council meeting for the town of Grand Bay-Westfield on Monday, January 10th to order at 7:05 p.m. We respectfully acknowledge that Grand Bay-Westfield exists on the traditional Woolastook lands. The lands of Wabanaki people are recognized in a series of peace and friendship treaties to establish an ongoing relationship of peace, friendship, and mutual respect between equal nations. The river that runs by our town is known as Woolastook, along which live Woolastookweg, the people of the beautiful and bountiful river. We, the staff and elected representatives, pay respect to the elders, past and present, and descendants of this land. Welcome and Happy New Year, everybody. I'd like to let the record show that we have a full docket of attendance from council tonight. Thank you, everyone. We will go on to item 5, agenda approval. The motion is that the council of the town of Grand Bay-Westfield approve the agenda of January 10th, 2022 as presented.
So moved.
Okay.
Councillor Day.
Thank you, Councillor Day. Do I have a second?
Seconded.
Thank you very much. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Contrary minded? Okay, motion is carried. Okay, our first virtual agenda item as a team has been completed. So good job, everybody. This is our first virtual meeting, so we're doing all right so far. So item 6, disclosure of conflict of interest. Is there any? There being none, we'll move on to item 7, public hearings, presentations, delegations, petitions. This is virtual. Item 7A, Envision St. John, Paulette Hicks. Paulette, welcome. We're thrilled to have you here, and the floor is yours.
Wonderful. Thank you, Your Worship. Happy New Year, Your Worship and Council. It's really a pleasure to be here tonight. And I have a short presentation that I would like to go through as it relates to our KPIs for Envision St. John. It has been a heavy year lifting and standing up the agency, but a really exciting year, and certainly a pleasure to have representation of Grand Bay-Westfield at our table and supporting the agency as it relates to moving our region forward. So I'm just going to share my screen really quickly and make sure that everyone can see it. And can everyone see my screen?
Yes.
Wonderful. Okay, well, I'll get started. So thank you again. So defining success. So we have reached a milestone, obviously, with launching the 10-year strategic vision for the agency and for our region. And it's nice to be back in front of council as it relates to how we're going to measure success. So Envision St. John, the regional growth agency, is the region's sales, marketing, and support engine strategically focused on attracting people, visitor, business, and investment to our region. Defining success. So as you know, as part of the strategic vision, we've been very clear as to what we're trying to do in the region collectively as a region is to grow our population by 25,000, to increase a municipal property tax base by 30 to 35%, as well as to continue to build on our place brand and to continue to grow a stronger brand for our region. How we do it. The Envision St. John Regional Growth Agency is accelerating regional growth by connecting innovators, entrepreneurs, and builders to get stuff done now. So the role of the agency really is to be an enabler. You know, how do we bring the right people around the table, set the priorities that's really going to move the needle as it relates to our 10-year outcomes? From an agency perspective, as part of our strategic vision, we have clearly outlined the core services and the focus of specifically the priorities for growth readiness. You know, how well as a region will we be ready for growth? This is really an important piece as it relates to our relationship with each municipality, really being stewards of, you know, when we look at our growth strategy and, you know, bringing more people to our region to live here, to visit here, looking at our talent strategy, how ready are we all ready for growth? So that is a big part of the work that the agency will be doing collectively with our municipal leaders and our stakeholders. Focusing on talent acquisition and pipeline, we know that in order for our businesses to grow, we certainly need more talent in the region, and certainly retaining those folks that come to study here or to stay to study here, that we certainly want them to live here to support our businesses. As well as entrepreneurship and business growth, how we support our businesses to start up, scale up, and to continue to grow, and engage our entrepreneurs and our leaders to help design a high potential innovation play for our region. So I want to give a few examples of some of the work that the agency is doing and how we will measure the work and how it ties back to our 10-year outcomes that we're trying to drive for the region. So from an opportunity perspective, this is what we've identified as platforms, and it really is, what are the growth opportunities? So one of the examples I'd like to share tonight is the importance of working with our post-secondary institutions, in particular UMBSJ and the MBA program. Certainly a strong MBA program in our region, but how do we align to make sure that we are reaching and it ties to our goals for more people, growing our tax-based revenue, as well as building our brand in the region. So the short midterm outcomes is, targeted recruitment. How are we working with our partners to make sure that we're attracting the right MBA students that our companies need, so that it does tie into how do we retain them so that they live here and they've got good jobs and again, families here, which will grow the population. Increasing the student enrollment. How do we support getting our message out that this is certainly an area and a region that you can have a wholesome education as well as a great place to live. And certainly from our youth that live here, why not consider UMB and the MBA program? So really working through some of those strategies. So again, the retention is critical for both post-secondary students as well as our newcomers. Another opportunity that we'd like to share with you is an example of the work that we did in last quarter. And this is really how we promote more product so that we can increase visitation, which we know that is the entry for those that consider sometimes to move to our region. So again, aligning with our 10-year outcomes, looking at the economic impact of a new festival coming to our region, increases visitation, it's new tourism product, it showcases one of our areas within our region, St. Martin's, also elevating our place brand, creating that pride in place. We know that we have a signature tourism asset in Atlantic Canada in the Fundy Trail, so it certainly helps to activate this product, as well in partnering from a sponsorship perspective with one of our key companies, DP World, who came to our community in 2018, a significant employer of the port, which is also a growth platform for us. We looked at enhancing, their position and their brand in the community. So this is an example of, we're looking for new products and promotion that we can do throughout our region. And this is just one example that we give you tonight in St. Martin's. Another opportunity with UNB is the Integrated Health Initiative, and this is probably one of the bigger catalytic projects that will really help drive more people, more tax-based revenue, and build our brand. This is a significant platform and a lot of work that we're doing collectively with many stakeholders, but partnering with Horizon Health and UNBSJ. So this really is about building the talent pipeline, preparing our region for growth. This particular project will increase population because it's attracting 500 new students. It would mean $40 million more in economic impact through, a payroll, through staff researchers and students. It also is positioned to add $2 million in research funding for our region. So this is an area that we are working heavily in right now, in partnership again with many stakeholders, including UNBSJ, and also working with the private sector to understand what those opportunities are to build more businesses and spin-offs with respect to entrepreneurs and startups in this space. So when we look at our KPIs and how we're going to measure, all the activities and resources will always be aligned with trying to make sure that they align with our 10-year outcomes. Strategic platforms and opportunities will continually be evaluated, measured to ensure that, again, we reach them. And, there is criteria review for the engagement. So we're always making sure they line up, biannual evaluations, always doing a review. And we recognize that, this level of engagement and review allows us to pivot if we need to, or sometimes if it's not, then we abandon and abort and look for new opportunities. So we are living to the values of being an agile agency to make sure that we are aligned with growing this region. Along with that alignment and evaluation is accountability. And, having the CAO at the table representing the municipality is really important to us from a transparency perspective, but also from an accountability perspective. We're committed to quarterly impact reports for our investors so that people will understand the work that we're doing, how is it actually moving the needle, and how it's growing the region. The other piece around transparency and a commitment around growth from a collective perspective is we are launching the regional growth dashboard. These are meaningful metrics that we're using to really understand the health of our region and looking at the social and economic indicators that will help drive our strategy and certainly help us build strategy from individual municipalities, but also from a region as a whole. I've outlined some of the areas in Dashboard 1.0 that will include looking at these particular items, but we're committed before the end of 2022 is to have a bigger version. So we're going to continue to look at robust ways to measure the health and wealth of our region. So I will stop sharing the screen and then open it up for any questions that anyone may have.
Thank you, Paulette. I appreciate that that presentation. There's a lot of good information in there. I have a great deal of confidence in the process that we've all gone through this far, you and the team, to get Envision up and running. It takes time to right a ship and make sure it's going in the right direction. So we have to, be patient and look in those 10-year increments. I think that Envision is the way forward for the future economic success of our region as a whole. So I'm going to open the floor up to any council members that may have questions for Paulette. Just again, like I said, if you don't know where the hand icon is, Councillor McIntosh Lawrence.
Hi, Paulette. Congratulations again on your 1 year. I just asked this in the in-camera session, but I'll ask it again for the benefit of the public. So you did mention the sea shanty event in St. Martin's. Just wondering if you have any insight or you see anything in the future for something like that, maybe not to that scale, but for something like that in the Grand Bay area.
Great question. And we do. So there is a project that Envision St. John is working with that we have been probably working on the last 4 weeks with. And it is the last year in St. John for the sculpture, St. John Sculptures. And we know Grand Bay has been a really important partner in this. And certainly from a 5-year perspective, this is a legacy gift, this product that's been left. And it certainly is an international product because it goes throughout Maine and through New Brunswick. But in particular, in southwestern New Brunswick, we have a lot of products. So this year is last year. Envision St. John is looking to be a major sponsor. We know Bay-Westfield actually has their own trail that they're developing around this. So we're looking at this as building out the product that really we can enjoy for generations to come.
That's great. Thank you.
Thank you, Paulette. John? Oh, John, you're on mute.
You're on mute, John.
Thank you, Your Worship. I just expand on Paulette's answer. The Canadian Legion, in their effort to develop the Peace Park, has been communicating with the sculptor assigned to Grand Bay-Westfield on what the new piece would look like. So that dialogue's been going on, I'm going to say since last fall, late summer. So we're looking forward to that. So just to expand on Paulette's answer.
Thank you, John. Thank you. And Paulette, for the people that are watching that might not know the difference between the sprint and the longer term platforms, can you just elaborate on that concept and how these platforms are identified?
Wonderful. So the way the model is set up, it's really about looking at opportunities. What are our natural assets that we can lean into that's really going to move the needle for growth? And how do we work with bringing the right people together, really working with the ecosystem in some of these priority sectors to make sure that, we're positioned and the agency is really, helping to create the conditions for growth. So we refer to in our KPIs platforms, which are really what our growth opportunities opportunities, where are the opportunities for growth. And we reference platforms, which can be really big platforms, which is one example that I used tonight with UMBSJ with respect to the integrated health, which is a significant platform because it has a significant amount of people involved to develop this, but it also has a big return for our region. And then we have smaller opportunities, similar to the sea shanty that I gave for an example, that are more sprint. You know, they're defined, they're shorter, they still have big impact, but it doesn't take a lot of resources from our agency, and it may be a shorter time frame that we get that in play, whereas some of these bigger ones can be multi-year. And I think about the opportunity right now at the port, certainly a significant growth opportunity with respect to jobs, training, workforce development, and new employers that are looking at the port for expansion. So we certainly evaluate all these opportunities. We make sure that they do, again, drive to the North Star. Are they going to, align with the 10-year outcomes we're trying to achieve? And then we right size them with bringing the right people around the table. And the role of the agency really is, how do we accelerate that growth? How do we validate that it is a priority and that it does align with what we're trying to do to move the region forward?
Thank you, Paulette. I appreciate that. I have another question around the KPIs. I noticed that one of the KPIs was around property tax-based property assessments. So when we are experiencing something like we just experienced with sort of large market adjustments, and does that really reflect success? And where it's just something that happened with the pandemic and people moving in, and like I said, it could just be a market adjustment. How is that going to be mitigated so the data isn't skewed?
Yeah, it's a great question, and I can tell you that the board of directors, we've had lots of discussions around that. John Enswin, as your CEO at the table, can tell you that we're looking at this as pure growth, not just a round up or a round down. Like, we really are looking to drive population growth, new residents. Now, we know and recognize, there could be investments made that certainly increase value, and that's great, but it can't just be a calculation. So we are driving it specifically, from 2022 and beyond, what that stat looks like. So there'll be a lot of rigor in that to make sure that these are pure numbers.
Okay, thank you. I'm hogging all the questions here, but I've got one more, and it relates to the letter that of support that you want to present to council. The IHI platform. So that's $40 million in economic impact. Obviously, a huge win for the region. Not to mention the potential private sector potential, spin-off potential. So, can you tell us a little bit about the support letter that you're asking all the regional mayors to sign?
Yes. So again, we're starting to demonstrate that we work as a region, and no better way is to have priorities coming from a region. And when we look at what's going to move the needle, we have looked at some of the opportunities we have, whether it's the port or whether it's this opportunity with the integrated health. And we've identified the integrated health as a top priority because of what comes behind it, with 500 new students, which we know aligns with the talent pipeline. We know we need more talent for our businesses to grow. The research dollars, the fact that we're one of the very few universities that actually has a hospital on the same campus gives us this unique opportunity. The only other opportunity that we've seen across Canada is in Surrey, BC, where they've had great success with a similar initiative. So I would say that we were selected by a private sector group, the LARC group, that really want to build out this integrated health. It's great timing given obviously where we want to enhance our healthcare system. We certainly know that's an important priority for New Brunswick, and what better region to take the lead in that is our region. So these are early days. We are identifying as a priority platform, a significant platform. There's still a lot of work to do, but we got the right people around the table committed to this file, and it's really important that we demonstrate that there is support to continue to work this file from a platform and a priority perspective. So we are asking for support tonight to align that this would be one of our priorities.
Thank you, Paulette. It's exciting to be able to throw our support behind such a catalytic project like that. Do we have any other questions from council for Paulette? Okay, Paulette, looks like you're off the hook. Thank you so
Okay.
much for coming to present. Happy New Year, and again, congratulations on the 1 year anniversary of Envision St. John.
Okay, thank you for all your support. Have a good night.
Yes, you too.
Right.
So the motion on the table is that there are going to be two motions. 7A is that the Council of the Town of Grand Bay-Westfield receive and file the information as presented. And please remember to say your name when you make a motion.
I'll move that to Councillor Toole.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Toole. And so who is that?
Second it, Councillor Day.
Thank you, Councillor Day. Any questions on the motion? If not, all in favor?
Aye.
Contrary minded? Motion is carried. Thank you, Council. Next motion is 7AI. It's the letter University of New Brunswick Integrated Health Initiative, IHI, and the motion is that the Council of the Town of Grand Bay-Westfield support the UNB Integrated Health Initiative mayoral letter. Do I have a motion?
Councillor McIntosh Lawrence.
Thank you, Councillor McIntosh Lawrence.
Councillor Day.
Councillor Balcom.
Okay, so it was, that's, I don't know,
Go
I
ahead.
don't know who was first.
Jim.
It was a bit of a rush, so I'll say Councillor Balcom on this one. Second by Councillor Balcom. All in favor?
Aye. Aye.
Contrary minded? Motion is carried. Thank you very much, Council. We'll move on to item 7B, Greater St. John YMCA, and we have with us here tonight Shiloh Boucher. Shiloh, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you, Your Worship, for having me and for for seeing all the new councillors. I am a Grand Bay resident, so we're really proud of all the work that you have been doing. And I know there's some new faces, so that's one of the reasons why I wanted to come today and talk a little bit about what the Y is up to, where we see us, where we can maybe work together and see what comes next. For me, I've been at the Y for over 15 years now. It's funny how time goes by very fast. And we've been working on a lot of different things. So I'm going to share a little bit with you. I'm going to share my screen. I don't know if my presentation is as succinct as Paulette's, but wow, she did a great job. All right, so I'm going to share my screen here. For all of you. And can everyone hear me okay?
Yep.
Okay, good. I did one of these before and they couldn't hardly hear me, and that was not a good showing. All right. So, I'm just going to walk through and hopefully I'll have some time for a little bit of discussion. Just so who we are. I don't know if everybody knows who the YMCA is. We've been in the community for 167 years. And really, if you think about who we are, we're here to support community. We do deliver programs, and those programs are meant to help support the community in different ways. And obviously, one of the big ways that the Y supports the community is removing financial barriers and creating a place really where people can just belong and learn and be enriched by the facilities and the operations of the YMCA. And we have a lofty vision. We had a 5-year strategic plan. We're into our last year currently, which I'll talk a little bit about. And our vision is really just to be that leader and to be a valued partner. That's the reason why I'm here today in developing healthy, diverse, and growing communities. And you can see all our values. We are a value-based organization, so you can see those in everything we do at the Y if you've ever come and participated in programs at the Y. So who we are, and we're called Greater St. John because we operate from Sussex to St. Stephen. So we're not just local in St. John. We're across a wide range of demographics, which you can see from the map. We have a big team of staff. So we have about 300 staff. And a big focus in childcare. Obviously, everybody knows us as the gym and swim, and we do a lot of work in newcomer connections and supporting our newcomers. And of course, we don't do this without our volunteers. So we have about 729 volunteers that work with us every day and help make the marvelous things at the Y happen. So our reach, we reach about 21,000 people a year in the work that we do. COVID obviously slanted a few things that we're doing, but we're still going strong in a lot of the areas that we operate. So our Y is really focused on right now driving impact and enriching lives. And we're doing that, and we like to put things in buckets. And we love our colors at the Y as well. So we're really focused on health. We all know how important people's health is right now, even more than ever, and really just focus on that whole family. Enrichment is another big area for us, and so we're focused on our future leaders, our young people who need us more than ever, and supporting our older adults so that they're aging well in place. And then bringing those two together to talk about intergenerational programs. The other big area, which it was great to hear that you had a land recognition as part of your agenda. Diversity is a very significant part of the work that we've been doing over the last 4 years, and really work we should be doing as a charity, as an organization that people look to be inclusive. So we've been doing a lot of work in that area, and growth. So moving into different communities who need us, which I'll talk a little bit about, and then just helping people understand why we're here, what we're trying to do, and how we can help. Just a little bit about our diversity and social inclusion. We actually have a staff dedicated to this work, and we spent some time understanding internally what the Y could be doing and where the areas we needed to focus. And so we looked at our volunteers and our staff and got some feedback from them. And mental health was one. You can't be inclusive if you don't consider people's mental health. Making sure we're being inclusive with the two LGBTQ groups, and of course, Indigenous reconciliation. And on top of all that is systematic discrimination and trying to understand our own unconscious biases, which you guys have been doing training, I understand, so you understand this all too well. HMR, so a big part of us, health, membership, and recreation, which most people understand about the Y. We're here for everybody, all ages and all stages. There's a program for somebody at the YMCA. Whether you can afford us or not, we make sure our doors are open to everyone. I want to talk a little bit about the Irving Oil Fieldhouse. So everybody knows we own and operate the Regional Y, but the Irving Oil Fieldhouse is actually a partnership. And I love this because we have very different partnerships in the Y, whether it's with municipalities, with schools, whoever needs us to provide a service, then we work with them. So the Irving Oil Fieldhouse is a charity called the Greater St. John Fieldhouse, Inc. And so the Y actually operates that facility for them. We help design it, and we help staff it, but they are responsible for the asset. And we make sure that we're bringing prime programs and services to that asset. And it is an amazing asset for our community. And I know Grand Bay supported it, as many other municipalities did. So newcomer connections. This is an area a lot of people don't understand about the YMCA. And this is all free programs, and it's funded through the federal and provincial governments. And basically, we call it end-to-end services. And we're unique in this. We're a Y that has the end-to-end services. There's not many that do, or there isn't any currently that do. And so we're there as soon as somebody lands at the airport. If they're part of the refugee assignments, they come. We're there. We pick them up at the airport. We have temporary housing. We actually have 3 of them that we support them in, and then we help them find houses. Make sure that they have connection in our community. That's a really big deal for our newcomers. So we always assign them to volunteers. And then we assign them a settlement support worker so that they have someone to walk with them as they begin their journey with us in New Brunswick. And of course, there's lots of kids. So we have supports. We have school liaisons right in our schools that work directly with the teachers in the school system to make sure that the kids are successful, because 2 things we know is the parents really want to learn English and get a job, but none of that matters unless the kids are happy. So that's part of our job as well. And we have a full language school at the Regional YMCA. So that's really quick on everything we do, but it's pretty significant. We support about, 2,600 clients a year through the work we do, and 1,000 of them that we've seen over the last couple of years are under the age of 19. So kids, youth development and employment is really important as well. And we serve 47 countries, so all kinds of languages and people from all walks of life. So the next piece of us is childcare and community programs. And we operate in many locations across Greater St. John, from Sussex to St. Stephen. Depending on what the community needs us to do is what we provide. And in some of our locations, we also provide free youth programs, leadership development, and programs for older adults. You name it, we're probably doing it at one of our centers. And we own and operate the Glen Carpenter Center and the Camp Glenburn, which is out on Belle Isle, which is an overnight camp. And that's a whole different experience. And we've been operating that for over 90 years. So I just wanted to talk a little bit about the bilateral childcare agreement. Even though this is not a Y thing, it's an opportunity for our community because there's 3,500 new spaces that the government is looking to open in the province. And I really think the demand's going to grow. $10 a day childcare being put in place. It's not going to be put in place this year, but they're gearing up for it. And so I think that this is an opportunity for all of our communities, and an area that the Y can really help in, because this is an area we as a Y have seen the need and has started growing in. Just during the pandemic, even we opened up our early learning hub in the North End, and that's to support those living in poverty. But it's a full child care center as well. So if you can open that in a pandemic, I think we can do some more. I just want to talk a little about fundraising because we are a charity. It's a big piece of, it's a big part of what we do, on top of having all our volunteers working with us. And so every year we're trying to increase the amount of money that we raise for strong communities. And this helps us remove barriers for families, whether it's offering free programs in schools or allowing them access to learn how to swim. This is why we raise money. And obviously, the green bars are our capital campaigns when we've embarked on some larger campaigns to really make sure the assets are there for our community. And so this year, we're trying to get to 525 because we did see a huge need during the pandemic, specifically in childcare. Surprisingly enough, parents just really needed that support to get through the year, whether they weren't working or working from home. So we're continuing to raise money, and we hope to raise that much this year. And I know that you supported us as well through the Strong Communities campaign. I just want to say thank you for that. And I should talk about how many people that supports. So it's about 2,500 people that are allowed to access or have an opportunity to have a safe place to go because of the monies that we raised. So that's a pretty big impact. I just want to talk a little bit about what the Y does in your community, because we don't have a physical location, but we do still serve your residents in your community. So if we looked at our membership demographics, we have a good demographic of folks using whether it's the regional Y or the field house. I can't tell that, but I can tell they're members of the Y. And 10% are sponsored. So people in your community need our support, and when we're helping make that happen. And families, I'm not surprised there's a big amount of families because of when you participate in the Y, everything's included. Families like that. We do programming, so we don't have physical locations, but we work in partnership with our school district, and we offer a Rainbows program, which we have for over 30 years, and it's based on a need for kids who are experiencing some sort of loss. So it's just a mental health support program, more of a preventative program, so that helps them deal with their feelings and have the tools to move forward. And so we have a lot of great stories about how we've really supported kids with this program. And then I wanted to talk a little bit about your strategic priorities and how I feel they align with some of the work that the Y is doing, and you can tell me if I'm right or wrong. Population growth, I think we're all focused on that, and I feel the Y has a large part to play with our newcomer programs that we do offer. And obviously part of what we do is understanding community need and trying to make sure we're working with employers or municipalities or Envision or whoever we have to work with, because we're the ones providing the service. So I feel like there's some part for us to play in helping you with that very important strategic priority. And then, of course, your recreation master plan that's been released. It's an 80-page document, I believe. I went through it. A great piece of work, and some really strong actions. And I feel, of course, as a YMCA, we can support you and as you start to deliver on that master plan, whether it's providing programming for young people or older adults. I know we've talked to Gary before in the past about older adults and us providing programs. Obviously, multi-purpose facilities. I read in the document, and one of the things about the Y is when we design a space, it is to be multi-purpose. There's no piece of the Y that's used for just one purpose, maybe other than childcare, because you can't get around those licensing requirements. But that's what we do. We build spaces so that community can come together and do activities, and so that your facilities are busy 100% of the time. So I think we can help with that. And also volunteerism. That is a big part of who the Y is and what we do, and we have a lot of mechanisms in place to support our volunteers, to recruit, to make sure people are safe when they're coming to programs. So I just feel like those are a few areas that we could probably help you if you were looking for any help. And then finally, just building on the rest of the presentation, I guess, what could be next for us. And I think as we look at a childcare strategy and look where the needs are, I understand from John that there's a need in Grand Bay potentially, because there's wait lists in Grand Bay. So that could be something that we could work on with you. And then I really feel like there's some services that we offer in our newcomer connections that could probably really support you as you start to delve into population growth and creating a more diverse community, and how we can support you in that, because obviously we want to make sure that that's happening for you as well. And I'll stop talking.
Thank you, Shiloh. That was a really wonderful presentation. I know I've said this before, but I'm a huge fan of the Y. I used to work at the Y when I was a kid, and when I was in university, and my children have all been huge Camp Glenburn fans over the years. So we really appreciate the work that you do. You really touched on some of our strategic priorities with population growth and community vitality within your presentation. And if we're expecting new population to come in, we do have to make sure there are those childcare spaces available. So having a childcare strategy where we really identify the need is important. And as well, you touched on with the welcoming newcomers piece of it. That's a part of our strategic plan as well. We want to increase the diversity of our town, and we will definitely need support with which to do that. So again, thank you for such a great presentation. I'm going to open the floor to questions from any of our councillors. Do we have any questions for Shiloh here today? Shiloh, your presentation was so comprehensive, it answered all of our questions in advance. But yeah, it's exciting to have you actually be a resident in Grand Bay-Westfield. We have that connection, and the work you do is absolutely stellar. So I look forward to potential partnerships in the future. So thank you very much for your time. Oh, John has.
Sorry, Your Worship, the Deputy Mayor had her hand up.
Oh, I'm sorry, Deputy Mayor Till. I didn't see you in the corner. I was too busy soliloquizing.
That's okay, Your Worship. No, I was just saying I was excited to hear you talk about working with us with the Recreation Master Plan and working on that, because that was I think what I noticed from the presentation is that you do a lot for us, but there's no physical location for the Y here, and we're looking at kind of trying to expand our capacity and our capabilities. So I love to hear that. That was really, really great. So we'll probably take you up on that. I think is my thought.
Amazing. Then I could stay and work here in our.
There you go.
All right, but thank you so much.
Yes, thank you, Shiloh. We really appreciate your time here today. I didn't miss anybody else, did I? No, we're good? Okay. So the motion is that the Council of the Town of Grand Bay-Westfield receive and file the information as presented.
So moved, Councillor Day.
Thank you, Councillor Day. Do I have a second?
I'll second that.
Deputy Mayor Toole?
Deputy Mayor Toole, yeah.
Identify
myself, I guess.
All in favor? Contrary minded? Okay, your motion is carried. Thank you very much again, Shiloh, for your time.
Thank you.
Item 7C, discussion regarding education infrastructure investments. We have DEC members Amanda Ham and Roger Nesbitt here. We also have our MLA, Mr. Speaker Bill Oliver. Welcome, everybody. We're very happy to have you here. And Happy New Year to you all. I believe that Amanda, who is our zone DEC representative, has a presentation. So I will open the floor to you, Amanda.
Thank you, Worship. I'm actually going to pass it over to Roger. He can do an intro. Roger Nesbitt is our District Education Council Chair, so I'll give him the floor for a few intro words, and then we'll hop into the presentation.
Thank you, Amanda. Good evening, Mayor and council members and guests. Happy New Year to everyone. Very pleased to be here this evening, albeit virtually by screen. I want to begin by assuring you and assuring the members of council and everyone listening that the Anglophone South School District is certainly very aware of and very supportive of the need for new school facilities in Grand Bay-Westfield. As I said, I think back in October when Mayor Merrifield and the group came and spoke to our District Education Council meeting, I wish I could build you a new school tomorrow, but however, I can't promise you that. And in fact, there is quite a process and a procedure that takes place before the province will make the decision for a new school to be built and for that new school to actually come online. So in this regard, Amanda has done a great job tremendous job, in fact, with putting together a summary of what's involved in that in a PowerPoint presentation. And so I'll let her take you through that. And following that, I may make a couple of additional comments and we'll open the floor for questions. So Amanda, take it away.
Thank you, Roger. I appreciate that. And thank you, Your Worship and Council, for the opportunity to be here today. It's always a privilege to spend time with such a dynamic team. Just for the record, I'll state my name. I'm Amanda Ham, and I'm a representative on the District Education Council for Subdistrict 3, and I'm a resident here in Grand Bay-Westfield. What we're going to touch on today and the presentation that I've put together here is the DEX Education Infrastructure Investment Update, particularly with a lens and focus on Grand Bay Primary and Inglewood School. With this presentation, I want to walk you through and focus on two particular points. First of all, we're going to walk through the capital prioritization process, specifically with respect to the Grand Bay Primary and Inglewood School project. And the second focus is we're going to highlight what type of advocacy can occur go forward. And then, as Roger said, he's going to have some words as well. So we'll jump in. So the Anglophone School District South annual major capital construction projects planning cycle kicks off annually, and it starts in March. And what the District Education Council will receive at that time is a plan that staff prepares. It's the recommended capital improvement projects and major capital construction projects for future consideration plan. And I've put in a link here. You can go on, you can have a look. This would have been the draft plan that came before council in March 2021. Once that comes before council, is a similar procedure that you have with town council. We get a presentation from staff. There's an opportunity for questions, any takeaways, any amendments that might come up, and it soaks for a month. And the next month, we'd see that reappear on the District Education Council agenda, comes up in April, and that would be the final recommendation plan that would come forth, and we'd take a vote on that. So stepping through what happened this previous year on April 14th, 2021, the District Education Council approved the major capital construction project list for 2021. And you'll see on that list a recommendation for a new K-5 school to replace Grand Bay Primary and Inglewood School. And from this place, this list gets submitted to the Department of Education and Early Childhood Development for consideration. And as EECD goes through that consideration, they have a very particular and well-documented and defined major capital construction prioritization process. I'm not going to speak too much in detail on that. It's not something the District Education Council is involved in. Bill Oliver has joined as part of the province and can probably reference this a bit better than I can. But at a high level, they have a tiering and a quadruple bottom line project ranking system that's really data driven. respects the Educational Act. It supports pedagogical requirements. It's really responsive to GMB needs and priorities, and really has a provincial perspective, because as such, when the District Education Council submitted our project list, all the district education councils, both from the Anglophone and Francophone sector, submit theirs, so that you have this pool. So this is a really transparent process of how the province does the evaluation. Once they filter those projects through there, EECD will make a recommendation and they submit it to Cabinet for further consideration. From that point, in December, just a few short weeks ago, the output of all that is the capital budget will be released. So the GMB 2022-2023 capital budget was released. We saw within this 2 new projects that we'll see moving forward. One, a kindergarten to grade 5 school in Fredericton. 2, a kindergarten to grade 8 school here in St. John in our district in the Central Peninsula. And it outlined 4 additional projects that are in various stages of planning and construction that will continue on that trajectory to completion. One thing that was of particular note in the release of the 2022-2023 capital budget that's a bit of a change, and I don't have all the details on this, and Roger and I will get additional details, but what's important from this, and I cited this remark, is the establishment of a stable departmental infrastructure priority list. So this is a list of projects that have gone through the process. They've been vetted through the GMB department. They've been deemed these are good projects. They get added to the list. And while there's no guarantee on the specific timeline of how that project will come to fruition, once a project's on that list and it's gone through that qualification process, there's no need for that project to be resubmitted by the District Education Council year after year. So that's a bit of a change. And the good news is, with respect to the Grand Bay-Westfield community, you'll see on that list a new school to replace Grand Bay Primary and Inglewood schools. This is a project that is recognized and is on the 2022-2023 stable departmental infrastructure priority list. And the idea behind this list is, once it's on there, again, the District Education Council is no longer going to have to continually submit this. It's already been validated, and it will stay on there until it comes to fruition. So I think this is a really exciting news for the community and also for our school district, as we have another project that is on this list as well. As a side note, the district itself every year, and I'll take this past year, we have a annual capital improvement project budget that we have, and it's about over $2.6 million annually that the district would invest into projects and schools in our district. And we kind of look at 3 different things that we keep a mindset of that we handle just through this annual capital improvement project, and it's building envelopes, washrooms, and really make sure that we have space, adequate space for students. So we continue to make investments in our facilities outside of the large capital construction projects. And I just wanted to highlight some of the investment that was made in the community over this summer period, so the 2021-2022. Grand Bay Primary would have saw a significant renovation within their washrooms, both staff and student washroom facilities. And at Inglewood School, we had a flurry of activity. We saw the addition of 2 new modular classrooms that were installed at the site. We saw a driveway expansion to give the students a delineated walking area to address some safety concerns there. Some site paving that went alongside that. We saw an accessibility ramp that was built to go into the modular classrooms, albeit the school's not fully accessible, but it will get some accessibility into that facility. We saw some really nice washroom renovations, dedicated student resource room, and a larger staff room. And when I think kind of in the near term, what we do have on the district forecast for some planning coming up in 2022-2023 work at Grand Bay Primary, we do have a need for some new windows slated for that school, and the costing on that estimate is $250,000. Again, going back to that first threshold of really the integrity in the building envelope, we need to keep the elements out. With respect to advocacy recommendations, one thing that we, the District Education Council, can help Grand Bay-Westfield Town Council is really to be your liaison to provide you data as you go forward to advocate for your community. By all means, we really want to keep that relationship open, in any way that we can provide any data to you, we will. The other thing that I think we all need to keep a pulse on is with the establishment of the stable departmental infrastructure priority list, we need to just kind of monitor that and keep a pulse to ensure that the new school to replace Grand Bay Primary and Inglewood School, that remains a priority of GMB. So that's the update that I have for you tonight. Roger, I guess I'll pass it over to you for some additional comments before we open it up for questions.
Yes, thank you, Amanda. Thank you very much, Amanda. Just before we get to the questions, I just wanted to note and emphasize again that the province and the district have combined in recent years to spend considerable dollars in projects for both Grand Bay Primary and Inglewood schools. The driveway project, for example, was something in the order of $250,000, and the modular classrooms were in the range of $300,000. The work on the bathrooms and so on at Grand Bay Primary amounts to about $200,000. So there's been significant dollars spent there in efforts to make sure that the health and safety of students and teachers and so on at Grand Bay Primary and Inglewood is protected and looked after. So, while it's not a new school, we certainly want to try to maintain the schools that we do have, and many times this involves borrowing from other parts of the budget. There never seems to be really enough dollars available to do all that we want to do. So sometimes we have to look at round in the budget of a district budget of like $250 million, which sounds like a lot of money, but about 85% of that is in negotiated salaries with negotiated agreements. So we only have about 15% of it to really do very much with. And so sometimes we have to really look to areas of the budget that where we can find those dollars, and certainly the capital improvement projects that the province funds have added to that as well. So I guess with that we could open the floor if there are questions that we might try to answer for you.
Well, thank you, Mr. Nesbitt. Before we do that, I wanted to give an opportunity to our MLA, Bill Oliver, to speak on the subject as well. Speaker Oliver, I know you've been doing some good work on the file.
Thank you, Your Worship, and thank you for the invitation to attend this evening. It's unfortunate that we have to meet virtually, but that's the way the world is at the present time. I know that I've had a conversation with the Premier, and I've had ongoing conversations with the Minister as well. So they're both very much aware of what our needs are, and certainly the Minister and I are continuing to advocate with the Premier. The last time I spoke to the Premier, he was very much aware of the funding shortfall, I guess, because right now we're only able to do 2 projects a year. I think that with the encouragement of other members and the Minister, he's seeing the point that we need to move ahead on our schedules. And I think it's very important to remember that this stable infrastructure priority that we now have is a positive. And I think the fact that we have moved up in the QBL ratings to number 11 at the present time, because we already have the other 2 projects that are going ahead this year. So I think that's very positive that we know that we're in the queue now, and we're going to see some improvements there. I was just going to go a little further. I just wanted to say that I think that the presentations that Paulette Shiloh gave are very important, because both the Y and Envision St. John are going in the right direction for growth. And when I think of what the two agencies are all about, it's interesting that the Y's agenda and the Envision St. John are sort of in parallel, and they're in lockstep with one another. And working with youth is certainly one big component of what we have to do in this region to make sure that our future is guaranteed. So that's just a positive that we have. One of the issues that we talked about, and maybe Roger can even respond to this, Grand Bay Primary and Inglewood schools are both listed as rationalization. Now, rationalization could mean anything from a new building to a combination of renovations to one of the schools or another school in the region. And I'm not sure how the council would think of that, if they've ever mentioned that, but it's something that we've done in other areas as well. So there are options, I would imagine, and I'm willing to investigate whichever way we want to go. And I'm sure that a new school would be the preferred model. But if we can move up in the ratings and move forward, it would certainly be an improvement for the district and for the area as well. Because we know that, in my mind, we're not being fair to our students in the area. And but having said that, the needs are great all over the province. So when I talk to a member from another area, they have schools in their ridings as well that are not as up to date as we would like to see them. So we are moving ahead, and I think that's the positive that we have to take from it. And we'll just continue the fight. And I think with the council's endorsement, we can maybe move a little bit quicker than we hoped for. So I'm very open. I'd like to hear what Roger might have to say if in regards to the rationalization. And also, I'd be happy to talk and take any questions you might have as well.
Okay.
I would just respond, Bill. I guess the one thing I would say is that certainly all options are on the table, and there would have to be a study done that would certainly look at which is the best option, whether it is in fact a new build or whether it is an addition to or something of that nature. So all those options are on the table for sure.
Yeah, good. And I just remind you, Roger, of the work that we did in Cape Park. And remember when they were looking for a new school, and it worked out quite well for them.
That was in my early days of being involved with District Education Council. That was
Right.
the first thing that really came up on the horizon, and that project did finally get built, and people are very happy there with what happened there. They didn't tear down the old building; they simply renovated it completely and made an addition to it.
Exactly.
It's a beautiful school now. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Speaker Oliver. Thank you, Roger and Amanda. I'm going to open the floor up to questions here in a moment, but I just have a few of my own. We've been in this process for over 20 years now, and while I'm thrilled to hear that almost $1 million has or is going to be spent in our area schools here in the last 6 months oncoming, it's a little bit frustrating that it's $1 million that could have gone to something really meaningful, as opposed to just a patchwork solution to facilities that frankly are not acceptable. So I have some questions about the QBL and the tiering process, how that leads to the EECD recommendations to Cabinet, in particular because Grand Bay Primary and Inglewood School are within 2 kilometers of River Valley Middle School. Apparently there are that affects that tiering process because there is excess capacity at River Valley Middle School. So what mitigating factors are in place to counter that capacity issue at River Valley Middle School that negatively impacts our ranking in the tiering process? Because it's not like we can move a grade 2 class over to River Valley Middle School. So why is that playing a role in where we are on that list?
Well, I don't have all the details of the QBL process, but I do know that there are a number of factors that they take into consideration when they are ranking schools under that process, whether that is a mitigating factor or not, I really don't know. But I know that part of a study that was done some years back or a few years ago, it did involve a recommendation or a suggestion that changes could be made to River Valley Middle School to accommodate the K-5 students there, along with the 6th, 7th, and 8th. A K-8 school is very common around the province in many areas, and so that's a possibility that may come up on the horizon.
Yeah, and that is, I guess, something we can look at. But my question is more about how is that being mitigated during the calculations, and because the calculations end up with us being lower on the list as opposed to higher on the list. Is that being mitigated during that calculation process?
I really don't know the answer to that, Mayor.
Okay. I think it's important that we get the answer to that, because if that is affecting where we are on the list, and it's, it's like I said, we can't just take a couple of grade 2s and grade 3s and throw them over there. It's an error in the calculation process in my estimation.
Well, that is certainly a question that we can take on Wednesday night. We have prior to our public meeting, we have a representative from the department coming to talk about the QBL process, because there are members on our council that have never heard of it before, and it's a good review for the rest of us. It's a fairly complicated process, and so that's a question we can ask, at that meeting for sure.
Yeah, I appreciate that. It's and it's quantitative processes absolutely have their place, but sometimes the calculations don't make sense in reality. So it's important that we have change mechanisms in place to manage that.
I think, Your Worship, I think that we were all a bit confused when the last time we all attended the DEC meeting, and I think it was Tom, was it, that mentioned the tiering system and how it affected us in Grand Bay-Westfield. So I certainly don't understand fully either. So I think it's good to get the answer, and I can ask if Roger's going to go at it this Wednesday night, but I'll make a ask as well. So.
Oh, thank you, Mr. Speaker. I appreciate that. And I'm not going to monopolize the entire question period. I've got some more questions, but I want my councillors to ask a few too, and I see some hands up. So we'll start with Councillor McIntosh Lawrence.
Thank you. Through the mayor, this can go to anyone. So I just want to make sure I understand the stable departmental infrastructure priority list. So right now we're number 11. So does that mean, like, within the next 5 years, if Providence builds 2 schools, that we'll get a school in the next 5 years, or does that just mean that we're on the list now? We don't have to submit again, but we could just keep going down the list further? That's my first question. Second question is regarding advocacy. Like the mayor said, we've been going through this for 20 years. We're at the top of the list, and now we're down at the bottom of the list again. And I know residents are frustrated, and I'm just wondering what we can do differently going forward to advocate that we haven't already done.
I guess this stable departmental infrastructure priorities list is a new animal to us. The chairs and vice chairs of the DECs around the province have asked for a number of years for the province to establish a 5-year priority list. Now, I assume this may be in response to that. I don't know that, but I assume it may be in response to that. And it came out as a surprise to all of us. We had no advanced knowledge that this was coming out before it came out. So what it says is that there's no guarantee that a school will be built. It says while there is no guarantee that the project will be approved within a certain time frame, it will not need to be resubmitted by district education councils year after year. So I guess the hope would be that it would be within 5 years, but there's no guarantee.
But it really doesn't change anything, yeah. And then my advocacy question?
Well, as Amanda suggested, certainly being aware of and being certainly being alert to the fact of what happens with that list as it comes out in future years. You know, where are you moving up the list or not? And my thought would be that certainly that with that list, any schools that come through the QBL process in future years would be added to the bottom of that list, and that other schools would continue to move up as new projects are approved and started. So certainly being aware of that, and I know that the folks in the Kennebec Cases Park situation, for example, and even in the St. John Central Peninsula case, there was a fairly large citizens group that got involved and wrote letters and made sure that these things that their schools stayed on the radar, and I think those things had to have an effect, because at the end of the day, these projects come through the process, they go to cabinet for approval, and the cabinet is made up of the premier and the ministers of the various departments, who are politicians, and politicians react to public pressure. That's the bottom line of that, and so that's the only thing I could suggest to you, really, from an advocacy point of view.
Okay, thank you. From what I understand, that has been done over the past 15 years. So I'm just, wondering how we move forward if we've already done all those things.
If I could, Councillor, I think that with the task force that we have, and I think they've been doing a great job of getting information and getting it front and center. I think that now is the time for them to step up and start making more appeals, I will say, to the other cabinet members, and show them what the concern is, so that we're not forgotten. And as far as the list, where we are number, say, 11, then we look at, and then speaking with the minister has said, as long as we continue to start 2 projects a year, that we will see ourselves growing at that rate. So it could be between 5 and 6 years. We should see ourselves in a position to start the project. Now, having started the project, we know it takes usually 2 years to completion. So in that respect, we'd probably be 5 to 7 years.
Yeah, before you actually move in. Yeah, certainly.
That's right. Yeah,
right,
to a completion.
Thank you.
But I think it's important to see that we have started something, and that
yes,
exactly.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So I see that Deputy Mayor Toole has her virtual hand up. Aaron?
Thanks. I had a similar question to Stephanie on the stable infrastructure.
Oh, I think she froze.
Every year there are 3 more things added to it, and now we're number 13, and soon we'll be number 47.
So Aaron, I hate to interrupt you, but you froze halfway through your question. Would you mind restating it from the beginning, please?
Sure, yeah. So no, I've been freezing a bit during presentations, so I might have, actually I'll turn my video off while I'm talking. That's probably the easiest to keep my internet. I was wondering with the stable infrastructure list, if there are things that are going to be added to it. So is it going to be a list that now it's this list until these are done? Or are we going to be every year there's going to be 2 or 3 added to it, and it's going to end up being this huge monstrous, or is this set until these are done and then there'll be more added on? That's the first question.
To my knowledge, it's going to continue on, and this is the list that we will work from. There will be nothing changed on it unless there is an emergency, and we experienced that in St. Patrick's School in West St. John a couple of years ago. But other than that, this list should continue on until it's completed.
Okay, so nothing else added to it. Okay. Yep. And then the other piece is, I think just a frustration on it, because you were mentioning with the advocacy piece of things and trying to make some noise. And I think I had my first year on PSSC back in 2009, in 2010, and Grand Bay Primary and Inglewood School were near the top of the list. And it's always been, they're near the top of the list and they're almost there. Next year is going to be the year, and then they drop off the radar. And now we're celebrating getting up to 13. Like they were up there, and I'm trying to figure out what. The year I remember vividly is the K Park year. We thought that we were going to be up there, and K Park got renovations ahead of any work done on Grand Bay Primary Inglewood, and it was quite devastating at the time. But if K Park was going to get renovations, why hasn't this renovation option been given to K Park or given to Grand Bay Primary and Inglewood within the last 10 years? It's a tough cycle. Like, now we've been waiting for a new school. Is it to the point where we're never going to get it? So why don't we just ask for renovations? We need a straight kind of answer where we go. Do we put all our eggs in the new school basket, or do we give up and go somewhere else? And you're saying there's a lot of other schools. I believe it was Mr. Speaker saying a lot of schools around the province that are in rough shape, but I think I've probably hit every elementary school in the province over the basketball circuit over the past 12 years. And I don't think I've seen any school to the state of the no gym at Inglewood and the room at Grand Bay Primary. They can't even host events. Like, if you're talking about bringing people to the town to see it, other than Westfield Elementary, there's no place, no school. When my kid was in the Inglewood Eagles, they couldn't bring anybody to the school to play basketball because they couldn't play basketball. So there's actual physical. It's not about the state of the school, it's about the facilities that are there. And I think the weighing list, if you look at it, I think they'd be hard pressed to find another school in the province elementary that doesn't even have a gym. So it's the size that are here. So it's a tough pill to swallow to hear that we might not have been advocating enough, and that might be the reason we didn't get a school. Because I'm trying to figure out what's the secret that we have to do we have to hit, or if the recommendation is, do we say no to the new school and just put our eggs in the renovation basket? Like, we're looking for guidance here from you folks as well on the advocacy side.
Go ahead, Roger. If you. What I was going to say is that when I went to the first council meeting and I listened to Mayor Lozier and I think it might have been Amanda. I think anyway, they ticked all the boxes. I mean, just before they spoke, somebody said these are the things that you need to be deficient in order to qualify, and there wasn't one of them that I couldn't say, well, okay, we're missing that, we're missing this, and yet we still didn't move up the list. So I was disappointed in that, and I as you were, I'm sure, Deputy. And so I don't want to say that politics got involved, but I mean, sometimes politics can be played at all kinds of levels, and I would hate to think that going forward, I think with this new stable infrastructure priority list, I don't think that we're going to get involved in that at all. I think that now that we've got that we'll stick to it, and I think that's going to be the best thing that we've heard in respect to the schools in Grand Bay-Westfield.
Yeah, that would be the hope, Bill, for sure.
Yeah. But as far as advocating, I just want to keep it fresh in everybody's mind, and so I think that's why I'm not going to stop talking to people in Fredericton about it.
Right.
Every time I go to a meeting with anybody, with the principal or with the premier or with the minister, that's the one item I talk about, because education is paramount. It's what we have to advocate for.
Yeah. So along that vein, I have a question for Amanda. So, that one of the mandates of the DEC is to provide community input into decision making regarding education facilities, etc. So how do you, as our DEC member, what is the process for you to advocate for our area to ensure that that's the new school or where we are on the list remains a Government of New Brunswick priority? What is your role, and how have you been executing that?
So I think that's a great question, Your Worship, and I think based on the work that we've did previously, I don't think there's another district education counselor that would have the background and education of those two schools. I know the insides and outsides of both Grand Bay Primary and Inglewood School, and can leverage that knowledge and share that knowledge with other counselors and other stakeholders as we go through there. So I think that's the role that I can really lend to this, although my lens, of course, is throughout projects throughout the whole district. This one in particular, I have very intimate knowledge and very fact-based knowledge to be able to share that with colleagues and stakeholders, so we make informed decisions.
Thank you, Amanda. And I have a question too with respect to the improvements that have happened at Grand Bay Primary and Inglewood. So is that an EECD decision, or does the DEC have input into what happens with respect to a list of capital improvements? How does that work? And
yes, Your Worship, it's a combination, really. The projects that are designated as capital improvement projects go to the province, And every year we submit a capital improvement list of somewhere in the order of, well, I don't know what it would cost, probably $25 million or thereabouts, or maybe even more. And we wind up, the province then comes back to us and says, you can have these top 2 or 3 off your list, usually is what happens. So we usually wind up getting about $3 million, $4 million a year to spend in that area across the district. And so then we use that money in conjunction with money that we can leverage from other parts of the budget and get projects done, as many as we can. Can't hear you. Can't hear you.
You still there, Your Worship?
I can hear you, Mayor.
Yeah.
Your Worship, we can't hear you.
I
Can't hear
I
you.
can't hear
Can't
you.
hear you. Can't hear you.
You're not on mute, but
You're
it's,
not muted, but we can't hear you.
Yeah.
Limited out on questions.
How about that now? Can you hear me now?
We can. Your
Yes,
Worship.
yes.
My AirPods just died, so there was a little bit of, yeah. At least you can hear me now. So I guess I'm just having a really hard time rationalizing $1 million going into facilities that, you know, when we really need a new one. It's really difficult to stomach, and you can rationalize it all you want, but it is.
Well, Your Worship, it's a question of health and safety and protecting the health and safety of the children and the teachers and parents who use those schools, and so that's why the money is spent.
No, I understand that, but at the end of the day, we, you know, and I know we're all on the same side here. I just need it on the record that we really do need new facilities here.
Yep.
You know, the kids aren't able to experience the curriculum the way we should. It's been well documented that, you know, educational outcomes are related to the quality of school facilities. So it's important that we all pull together, and you know, and I know that we're all on the same side, but you know, we have to continue to pull. So, and I think I saw Councillor Day's hand up at some point. Was that, or was that just out of the corner of my eye?
But they answered the question.
Oh, okay. Perfect. Do we have any other questions from council? Councillor Balcom, I know that this is one of, you know, the school issue is not just a pedagogical issue, but it's also an economic development issue for our town. People choose where they're going to live based on the quality of school facilities, and that is your pillar, Councillor Balcom. Do you have anything to add to the conversation?
Thank you, Your Worship. Just one question. I don't know who is best to answer it. Wondering, at what point in time is the decision made to put all one's eggs in the new school basket, or to look at a cost-benefit analysis for upgrading and, as the speaker mentioned, possibly building on to one of the existing schools? Is that decision made when we are number 1 and number 2 on the stable list, or can that decision be made or discussed prior to then?
In my opinion, if the sooner that we get to that, to make that decision, I think the better off we are, because then we can really push. If we're going to do an expansion on existing schools, then obviously the cost is going to be less than a new school, and I think in that respect that we could really push the government further on it and see if we can do something. Because I know that with the K Park School that we spoke of earlier, that was excuse me, that was moved up a little bit because of the fact that we weren't going to spend $20 million. We were only spending $7 or $8 million. So I think if we can make that decision as a strong option, then I think that we can do even more as far as the advocacy of the changes.
It's a valid point, Bill. I certainly agree with that. Yeah.
So Roger, it's Amanda here. I would just, and I apologize to council as I'm new on the District Education Council. So if that was something that needed to be triggered, what's the process for that to get triggered at the District Education Council layer?
Well, I'm not sure where that question is. I'm not sure where that would go, Amanda, because the at this point in time, the Grand Bay-Westfield situation is on that stable list, and I'm not sure what the role of DEC is now, because it's not a case where we go out and we recommend a new school building, or where we've done a sustainability study and we recommend a new building. It's gone through all that process, and so I guess we would have to ask that question of folks beyond our level. Really.
Okay.
Roger, I questioned them on what's the difference between rationalization and a new school. Obviously, a new school is pretty straightforward. And on the report that Amanda submitted tonight, it says a new school to replace Grand Bay Primary and Inglewood schools. But on the QBL list, it says rationalization. And rationalization could be anything from a new school to expansion on an existing school.
Yes.
So I throw that out there. And certainly when I spoke to the Premier, and it wasn't that long ago, and he asked me, he said, if you can find out what we're talking about as far as the needs and what the cost might be. Now, that would have to be coming from the department as well. But I would have to ask that the DEC would be supportive of that if that was the case.
Yes. Well,
because there's no sense of doing a study if that's not going to satisfy the needs or the wants of the community as well. Because I think that's paramount. We have to look at that because they've been waiting so long for something.
Yeah. Well, that's a good point, and certainly the DEC would need to be involved. I would suggest that the task force also from up there needs to have some discussion on this and what their view is in terms of moving away from the new school idea and moving to a idea of adding to River Valley, for example.
Right.
What is their view on that? Have they thought about that? Have they discussed it? And would that satisfy the needs of the community as well?
Exactly. Yeah.
Thank you, Roger. I see some hands up. Deputy Mayor Toole, is that from before or is that a new one?
It was a new one. Thank you, Your Worship. It was actually, Councillor Balcombe did mention it. I didn't have my question answered about the renovation versus the new school. What do we do? So thank you, Councillor Balcombe, for bringing that up again. But my thoughts on that is it's those facilities. I'm trying to think how on earth you could do anything to Inglewood or Grand Bay Primary to make it anywhere. You'd have to be able to add cafeterias and gymnasiums to those schools. So finding that amount of real estate in those two schools doesn't seem viable, and I'd be worried about us putting our eggs in the renovation basket if it takes us off the other side. That would be my thought. So I think that's a really, really big decision that has to be made. And then just another short point, I won't get into it much, but it ties in very, very much with what Shiloh Boucher said with the why, and you saw quite vividly on her presentation that there are no facilities here that the Y offers in relation to their services, and that is because we don't have the space attached to our schools. The child care centers that the Y has in their schools, they're great. They provide such resources for communities. People move there because of this. You have your kids at a Y child care center, you have a membership at the Y. It's a huge draw. We can't offer child care at the schools because there's no place for it. It doesn't meet standards for a daycare, yet we have our kids there as elementary schools. But they can't offer a hot lunch because they don't have a kitchen. There's not, like, these things are to the point of ridiculousness, but I think the why with the childcare space is we don't have the ability to have those facilities offered to Grand Bay residents because we don't have the school facility that will support it. So that's kind of the end piece that I think it might, if there's another tick to add to our list that we hit everything, that's another one, another box that we can add, that we won't be able to take advantage of those childcare spaces in the schools.
And I think that's a good point that you make, Deputy, because I wouldn't want people just to say, well, let's take something rather than wait for what we really want.
Bingo. Yeah, and I don't think we can actually renovate those places to the point where they'll be able to be sustainable. And like I said, I wasn't kidding when I said I think I've been in every single elementary school gym in every francophone and anglophone district in this entire province through the basketball stream, and like K to 5s, K to 8s, all of them. And my kids run around with joy in their eyes looking at what's in these schools. And when you look at it, it's quite fascinating. So I think it'd be a tough sell to me to go the renovation route. I don't know if we.
Oh, Aaron, I don't know if you can hear us, but you're frozen again.
And I don't know if I froze. Sorry, I'm all done.
You did, yeah, you froze.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you, Deputy Mayor Toole. I have a number of hands up. I'm just going to list them off. We've got, so that you know what order you're in, it's Councillor Day, then I've seen Councillor Bellman's put his hand up, and then I've got Councillor Balcom after that. So Councillor Day, we'll start with you.
I have a huge worry about this because it feels like we're going around in circles and we're getting nowheres. And Amanda, I appreciate your presentation tonight, and I appreciate that we're on some list now. But again, if we're going to have to go back to the task force to talk about this, to get this approval and all this stuff, how do I put it? We need somebody that's going to really take and drive this. Because, and that's not just advocacy, it's making sure the boxes, the I's are dotted, the T's are crossed. And I figure we'll end up meeting a year from now and we'll be no further ahead. And it's very frustrating because if we want to grow this community, we need either a new school, a new facility, something. And I know that the DEC did a study, and those two schools that we've got need so many renovations that it was cheaper to build a school from K to 8. Then the other problem is capacity. All of the kids in Morna that were supposed to be coming with us are now going in to St. Rose's, Burn Hill, or wherever.
Yeah.
So we've lost a lot of our capacity for the number of students we would have had. And it only made sense that Morna came up here because all those kids play together in other things and other sports. I know that Brittany and the task force and Amanda, you've been trying to drive this, and even Bill. But I'm sorry, as an old lady, all I see is this going around in circles.
Thank you, Councillor Day. Councillor Bellmans.
Finally. About 4 or 5 years ago, we had a meeting with Bill, and we're on number 3 to list. Now we're on number 11. That's quite a jump from 3 to 11. And the question is, these renovations on the schools, would that put us back farther again? And if you talk about putting a piece on another school, do we need more land to accommodate these facilities? We need a certain area for a school, like 13 acres, I heard. So what happens then? You don't have enough land to put these schools on. So we need a different area or expand out. So that's all.
Did you want that question directed at anyone specific, John?
To Bill, to Bill, or to Bill.
To Bill? To Mr. Speaker?
Speaker, yes, please.
Yeah, no, Bill's better. No, I don't disagree with you, John. I think that and to answer your first question, where did we go from number 3 to number 11? I think that the Auditor General mentioned that in her report, that there were some mistakes made, and it's not a matter of correcting it, moving us back to number 3, because with the new rankings, we're beyond that. And so we are where we are at the present time. We have to move on from there. But advocacy is, as somebody said, advocacy has been done. We're there, and I just want to keep it forefront of everybody's mind and keep working towards that. There's no going back as far as I'm concerned.
Thank you. Did that answer your question, Councillor Bailman?
Yeah. In other areas, but with this new school, how much land do you need with a new school, though? How many acres do you need for a new school in the area? So build a new school on the site now. People talk about need 13 acres or more. So why are these places not big enough for a school right now? Right. Existing schools, right?
Well, we're talking if we were talking about expansion, which I don't hear anybody really saying that. But if we were talking expansion, we probably need 8 to 10 acres on that.
Yeah,
If we were talking about a brand new school, we're probably talking 15 to 20.
right.
Yeah, I think if we were looking expansion, we'd be looking at River Valley Middle School because they have a fairly large swath of land behind the existing facility.
Yeah, that's the only one that would be feasible in my take on it all. But
Yeah.
again, it has some of the facilities that we would need, but we would have to build on the other facilities that would suit, like as the deputy said about the Y and their after-school programs and their daycare centers.
Thank you. I think Councillor Balcom was next on the list. I see one last hand up.
Thank you, Your Worship. And this is, I guess, just for clarity and especially for the deputy, my comment about possibility of renovating schools had no intention at all of suggesting we renovate Grand Bay Primary or Inglewood. It would have been specifically the River Valley Middle School. I'd like for a big decision like that to be made. I'd like to have all of the facts. I think council would as well. And if a study could be demonstrated and created to show that there is sufficient land at River Valley and the cost for building onto River Valley could substantially expedite the completion of a new facility, we would have a new facility tied on to an existing facility. And if we could get that done 3 years sooner or 4 years sooner than waiting for a new school, I'd like to know what the difference in cost would be and then make a decision, an informed decision from there.
Thank you, Councillor Balcom. Do we have any other questions or comments from council for our guests here tonight? Oh, I want to thank Bill and Amanda and Roger for coming and explaining some of the procedures. I know we've got some takeaways for you, so look forward to hearing from you on those. And thank you for listening to our spirited conversation and answering our questions. You can tell there's a level of frustration in the room, and I know we're all working together to get the job done, but it's important that we talk straight facts and nobody's trying to manage expectations. So again, I appreciate everyone being here, and again, hopefully we'll see you all soon, and Bill, I know we'll see you soon, hopefully, for sure.
Do you want me to mention that, Your Worship?
Yes, for sure.
We do have so with Ryan Donaghy, the Deputy Minister of Local Government, we're having a meeting next Tuesday in the morning. He has agreed that the morning would be best. Certainly you and John, I believe, are attending, and if the other councillors are able to attend, they're certainly more than welcome. And I think that at that point, most of the questions that you have will be answered by Ryan and myself. Ryan is certainly the author of many of these changes that have taken place or are taking place. And I hopefully to John, I believe that he's getting the answers to the questions that you posed as well. So.
Okay.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker.
Okay.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Again, I appreciate your attendance here tonight and participation in our discussion. Thank you for the work you do.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Mayor. Sorry,
Yes.
Madam Mayor. Just for clarification for the speaker, will that be in Fredericton or a virtual meeting?
It will be virtual at this point. The departments have all been ordered to have virtual meetings.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Thank you very much. So the motion on the table is that the council of the town of Grand Bay-Westfield accept this information as presented. May I have a motion, please?
So moved.
And who was that?
Councillor Bellman.
Thank you, Councillor Bailmans. Do I have a second?
I'll second, Deputy Mayor Toole.
Thank you very much, Deputy Mayor Toole. All in favor?
Aye.
Contrary minded? Motion is carried. Thank you very much, everybody. Moving on to item 8, minutes of previous meeting. 8A, regular council meeting minutes of December 13th, 2021. The motion is that the council of the town of Grand Bay-Westfield adopt the minutes of the regular meeting of December 13th, 2021 as presented.
So move, Councillor Day.
Thank you, Councillor Day. Do I have a second?
Councillor McIntosh Lawrence.
Thank you, Councillor McIntosh Lawrence. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Contrary minded? Motion is carried. Thank you. Item 8B, email poll, municipal insurance and cyber insurance. The motion is that the Council of the Town of Grand Bay-Westfield ratify the email poll regarding municipal insurance and cyber insurance. I have a motion.
So moved.
Seconded.
Councillor Balcom.
Councillor Balcom, do we have a second?
Same. Councillor Day.
Thank you, Councillor Day. Any questions or comments on the motion? All in favor?
Aye.
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 Contrary minded? Motion is carried. Item 9A, it's unfinished business, train whistles. The motion is that the Council of the Town of Grand Bay-Westfield requests NB Southern Railway to meet with Council to discuss how to ensure a strong quality of life for Grand Bay-Westfield and a strong NB Southern Railway. May I have a motion?
I'll move with Deputy Mayor Toole.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Toole. May I have a second?
Second, Councillor McIntosh Lawrence.
Thank you, Stephanie. John, I'm going to pass this over to you so you can discuss. Yeah, John's like, yeah. So you can speak on the motion, please.
Your Worship, we received 55 submissions, and there is a clear majority, 41 to 14, who welcome the whistles for a variety of reasons, primarily safety. And a number of the submissions did reference a tragic incident in the previous century in which someone was struck and died as a result of that incident. Your Worship, I have a bit of a nuanced resolution for Council to consider.
Okay.
A number of people referenced the fact that they like the whistles. Other people, even though they like the whistles, thought that there is a large range of how the whistles were used. And the legislations and the regulations reference that they may be used different ways. So rather than saying we want the whistle stopped, which I think even from a fiduciary responsibility that we would have legal exposure, that we would meet with NB Southern Railway to talk about, is there a way that there can be a minimum number of whistles applied rather than a long, loud one? There's short bursts that might be used instead. Are there any studies that indicate what is preferred, both from a safety perspective, but also sleep? And then also, Council, we've had a submission in which NB Southern Railway was alleged to agree that the vibration of the railway caused some lawns slope to fail. And so there are a number of different things. And, we heard this evening from Envision St. John that we expect a busier port. That means a busier railway, which on the one hand is very good for the economic development, and prosperity and population growth of our town and the region. On the other hand, given our proximity to the railway, how can we mitigate compromising our quality of life? So that's why the wording for the motion is the way it is, Your Worship. We want to be. I'm suggesting that we want to be partners with NB Southern Railway so that as much as possible, our residents have an enjoyable quality of life here, and NB Southern Railway can continue to be part of building the prosperity of the region and turning New Brunswick from a have-not to a have-nots.
Thank you, John. I want to thank all of the residents of Grand Bay-Westfield who took the time to put in formal submissions on this question during our request for public input. 55 submissions is a really good representative number, and I was happy to see that kind of participation in the democratic process because it helps inform our decisions as a council. So, do we have any questions or comments on this motion? I know it was there was a lot of discussion out in the community on this. I'm interested to hear what council has to say on the matter. Oh, Deputy Mayor Toole, there's the hand up. It's the same color as your wall, so it's hard to see. Oh, you're on mute.
I'm muted, and I'll turn my video off while I talk because it seems to freeze. But no, I noticed my wall is yellow, so that's what's causing it to hide. But I echo your comments, Your Worship, about the number of people who provided submissions. I think this is great. There was a lot of discussion. I'm really happy that discussion made its way to the official submission, so that is good. I'm also really pleased to see the amount of people who took safety as kind of the forefront and the forethought, and also individuals who had the other suggestions kind of outside of what was asked, but were able to express, like, look, they don't mind the whistles, but what, the length of them, and also so that the stuff that that our CIO mentioned. So I do like the nuanced resolution. I think it's a good middle ground, and I think we do need to work on opening the dialogue with MB Southern, because if it is going to become a busier railway, this issue isn't going to go away. And the more we educate ourselves on it and know kind of the parameters and what we can do, I think the better. So I'm really happy with this outcome at this point. I know it's not the end, but I think this type of dialogue is what we need. And I'm really pleased that the residents kind of came out and spoke out and told us, educated us on their views on this topic as well. So I'm fully supportive of the nuanced motion.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Toole. I see Councillor Day's hand up. Councillor Day?
Freeze again?
Yes, I finally figured out how to use that. What I'd like to say is the feedback from the citizens and the fact that they even commented on Facebook and then took the time to do the proper submissions speaks volumes on how they felt about this issue. And if you've had a loss of family or issues with people who thought they'd get across the tracks and then didn't, you know how important those whistles are, and safety is number one. And at the same time, where I am, I'm able to listen to the train whistles, and I can tell you they're not standard. It's rather interesting what they sound like in the middle of the night. And so I think if we can work with NB Southern to come up with something that makes I don't know if we'll make everyone happy, but at least have some kind of standard for living here, where some of those horns in the middle of the night right next to your house, I bet you I'd jump out of bed too. And it would not be great to be there. So I'm thinking it's a great thing if we can work with them. And I can tell you from the past, they've been really, really good to work with, because when I was on EMO, they were always there and very supportive.
Thank you, Councillor Day. Yeah, it would be nice if we were able to get particularly the nighttime whistles standardized, because we hear anecdotally that there is one particular conductor who's quite heavy on the whistle, and the other ones are a little bit more circumspect. So if we can get some sort of standardization, that would be nice. And again, I just really want to emphasize again the democratic process that was highlighted in this one issue, where we got such a good number of submissions, because this is an opportunity for us to listen to all of the voices and not just one or two of the loudest voices. So I want to thank our residents for taking the time to not just post on their personal Facebook page, but send something in that means something. So again, thank you to all the residents who did so. Do we have any other questions or comments on the motion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Contrary minded? The motion is carried. Thank you, Council. We'll move on to 11, new business recommendations. 11A, 2022 mandate letters. The motion is that the Council of the Town of Grand Bay-Westfield approve the 2022 mandate letters. We have a motion.
So moved.
So who was that? Councillor Bellman? Thank you.
So moved.
Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
Is that you, Beth?
Beth or Stephanie?
Okay. All right, so we'll second by Councillor Day. John, can I get you to speak on the mandate letters, please?
Yes, Your Worship. Right from the beginning, this council was sworn in. I'm impressed how much work council has done, and hats off to the leadership team as well. we've been trying to identify what council wants the town to look like by the end of the term. And then we've been working on how we get there. So there's a whole process that we follow to be accountable and transparent, and that's been outlined in the report. And the final stir and that drink to make sure that it goes around is the mandate letters. At a high level, it ensures that council's leadership team is all rowing in the same direction to accomplish council's goals. So we start off with a strat plan to a tactical plan. We've converted that into the budget. We get work plans out of that council has seen and that people have pulled together. And now the mandate letters are at a high level that council approves officially. And this goes into the performance evaluations for staff to ensure that everybody has achieved their goals and objectives. So this is where council's accountability and transparency comes with staff to ensure that we're doing what you want. That's it in a nutshell, Your Worship.
Okay, thank you, John. I did see Councillor Day's hand up. Was that?
That was, and then John went on to answer my question, which I think is really, really good because he's managing by objectives and he's got the staff there and he's able to evaluate and we can see their success in meeting what we'd like to do. And I'm looking forward to seeing every one of those boxes ticked because I think our staff are more than capable of doing it.
Yes, yeah, it's. I echo that statement. It's nice to see, the mandate letters align with the tactical plan and enmeshed with the strategic plan. It just it's nice to see all of that come together, and it's a very neat, tidy, efficient, and beautiful thing to see. So I just want to commend our CAO for putting those together. Very, very pleased to have those. Do we have any other questions from council? All in favor?
Aye.
Contrary minded? The motion is carried. Thank you. Item 11B, Fire Department Rescue Equipment Replacement. The motion is that the Council of the Town of Grand Bay-Westfield authorize the fire chief to convert Engine 1 to a rescue unit and purchase a new engine without compromising the fire department's ability to respond to incidents effectively and efficiently, and that the Council of the Town of Grand Bay-Westfield submit to the Municipal Capital Borrowing Board an application for authorization to borrow for a capital expense of a new engine for the fire department up to the following term and amount using equal annual principal payments. Purpose, fire department engine. Amount, $810,000. Term, 15 years. We have a motion.
So moved. Councillor Bailmans.
Thank you, Councillor Bailmans. Do we have a second?
I'll second that, Deputy Mayor Toole.
Thank you, Aaron. And John, can you speak on this item, please?
First, from the governance perspective, Your Worship, I'd feel more comfortable if we could do two different motions with this instead of doing them all as one, because they really deal with two entirely different matters. One is the conversion, council approving the conversion of the one vehicle, and then the borrowing of the money for the other.
Okay, so you want me to repeat the first motion and
yeah, sorry, I'm being a little bit picky on this, Your Worship, but
that's okay.
If the mover in this, I'm sorry, I don't remember who the mover, Councillor Bailmans, I think. If they don't object to just moving the first motion, we'll just keep the same mover and seconder, and then we'll get either the same ones or somebody new for the money issue.
Okay.
And again, I apologize to council for being picky.
That's okay. So what if council is in agreement, are we able to keep the first mover and seconder for the first portion of the motion? Okay.
Yes.
And then do you want me to get a motion and a second for the other, and then we'll discuss?
Let's just discuss this one first, and then we'll go to the next one.
Okay, that sounds good. All right. So John, that means you're up, I think.
Oh, sorry. Actually, I think the best person to speak to this is the fire chief, and I'll let him have a moment to turn his camera on and unmute his button, which hopefully is now.
Yes. Good evening, Your Worship, members of council. So yeah, we Our rescue unit, which was purchased in 1999, is due for its replacement. It's reached the end of its life cycle, kind of in a multitude of ways, and one of the biggest ones is the safety factor. That truck was built in a time where the area in the apparatus where you carry the firefighters doesn't meet the same standards today. It's actually lap belts. It's not even 3-point safety belts. And then just simple age and, you know, the idea of the apparatus being able to survive mechanically for the next few years is getting very limited. So it's due for its replacement. The department put together a committee of some officers and firefighters and looked at kind of our entire operation and how we respond to calls, what apparatus goes to different types of calls, as well as the age difference between the apparatus. And the end result was that the most highly recommended option is to actually take our existing engine 1 and convert that into a rescue unit, thereby replacing the rescue that needs to go, and then replacing engine 1 with a new engine. And that does a few things, as the report outlines, as far as options or advantages to the town and even to the department for operations, as well as the town from kind of a financial point of view. I'll just try I don't miss anything here. So engine 1, it is an excellent apparatus. There's absolutely nothing wrong with it, and there's nothing wrong with it operating as an engine. Having said that, there is an advantage of it being, when we replace it, of making a couple of minor changes. The biggest one being that it will carry more water. As a community without a hydrant system, the water we arrive with is the water that we have to fight the fire. So if that first truck can have a little bit more water, that can be certainly helpful. It's our busiest truck in the department. It responds to basically pretty much every single call we have, regardless of where the call may be. So it's kind of getting the highest use, and therefore it's got the highest number of kilometers, and its maintenance costs aren't too bad right now, but they would start increasing if we kept using it at the same rate. So this will put it into kind of a lesser used position in the department. Engine 1 and Engine 2 are two primary firefighting apparatus, with one in each station. They are pretty much identical trucks with the exception of the actual water capacity. Engine 1 only has 800 gallons, while Engine 2 has 1,200 gallons. It also has a dump valve on the back of the truck, which is basically just a really big square hole in the back of the tank that we can open up and dump the entire load of water into a portable water supply apparatus that we use at the scene. So the other issue with the two of them is they're actually only 2 years apart in age, and being the most expensive vehicles to purchase, as you know in the financial section down below, there may be an advantage in the long term of kind of separating how close they are to replacing. And basically, by the time they're due to be replaced through their natural cycle, they'll probably be at least $1 million. So the goal here is by moving one of those over to somewhere a different category that won't need that same replacement value. We won't be looking at spending $2 million in 2 years, back to back, which wouldn't be for another 10 years down the road, but still. So it's just kind of looking towards the future in that sense. So that's kind of where that all came from, and where we're at.
Thank you, Troy. So, Council, do we have any questions for the fire chief through the CAO on the equipment replacement? It was a fairly extensive review. Troy, you did a great job in terms of rationalizing why you're doing it this way versus another way, and it makes sense in terms of sustainability for the department and cost savings at the end of the day. So thank you for that.
No, and I do want to take a second just to commend the firefighters, the volunteers that were on the committee. They took it right to the extent of pulling every single piece of equipment off of the rescue and putting it on the engine to make sure that would work. It was a long process to make sure we're not going to get caught in some nasty financial places down the road. So kudos to them.
Yeah, absolutely. We certainly have seen multiple times the dedication of our volunteer firefighters and the department as a whole. So thank you, Troy. Do we have any questions for Troy or John on the motion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Contrary minded? The motion is carried. Thank you, Council. I'll restate the second motion for everybody. The motion is that the Council of the Town of Grand Bay-Westfield submit to the Municipal Capital Borrowing Board an application for authorization to borrow for a capital expense of a new engine for the fire department up to the following term and amount using equal annual principal payments. Purpose, fire department engine, amount $810,000, term 15 years. Do I have a motion?
I'll move that. Councillor McIntosh Lawrence.
Thank you, Councillor McIntosh Lawrence. Do we have a second?
Councillor Balcom seconds.
Thank you, Councillor Balcom. And John, back to you on this one.
Thank you. Your Worship, we're just asking that Council approve the way that we would like to pay for this. And that is that we'll pay the same principal every year over the course of the term. And the result will be that the interest payments will decrease from year 1 to year 15. And our CFO, Greg, has identified that could be a savings, depending on the interest rate, of about $13,000. I know in some respects in our budget, that's not a lot. But when you add that up over all the number of items that we need to borrow money for, the savings can be significant. And I'll just ask Greg that if I've missed anything, if you would just chime in to fill in any gaps.
Thank you, Mr. CAO, Madam Mayor and Council. Thank you. The CAO has covered that very well, and I believe Councillor McIntosh Lawrence had a question. So I think you said that when you moved the motion. So I'll be happy to answer any questions. And just be clear that the borrowing is for 15 years, which is the maximum allowed for this type of equipment, and the equipment's probably good for 20 years. So matching the payment term as close as we can to the useful life of the board a second time. So we're just making sure that this is up to, so we have enough money to cover the expense.
Thank you. Narrow down where that noise is coming from. Okay, that seems to have worked. That's great. Thank you. So as far as I understand, this is one of the first times we've done borrowing this way as a municipality. And, I want to thank Greg for the fact that we're able to make some savings, and it will become exponential over time. I really appreciate that, and I'm sure our residents do as well. Great, thank you. Okay, item 11C, council calendar, budget, new council orientation, and then I have a thing that says insert dates here. So, John, do you have those dates in front of you? Could you insert those dates for me, please?
Your Worship, I'd like to refer to our 2022 for the strategic plan review. Capital operational priorities, Wednesday, September 14th and 15th. Publicly to 1 due to our commitments to UMNB, as well as working with a community group to, and then there'll be a draft public presentation to council on the second meeting of October. And then hopefully we can get everything done by about November 23rd. And I'd like to stress, Your Worship, that the election for the new member of the LSD is expected to take place November 28th. It's unfortunate that it's not sooner. I can understand some of the reasoning behind that. However, it would be nice to have an elected official from that area that will become a part of the town. President, but I would encourage council and any member of the LSD that when we come to this point of the process where we're looking for public input, that members of the LSD please attend and please provide feedback. And then, Your Worship, just concluding, again, a heads up for LSD members that we'll have a new council orientation the weekend of December 3rd and 4th, which is the first weekend following the election.
Thank you, John. I'll get a motion in a second, and then I'll open for discussion. May I have a motion?
I'll move that, Deputy Mayor Toole.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Toole. Do I have a second?
I'll second. Councillor McIntosh Lawrence.
Thank you, Councillor McIntosh Lawrence. I just, having the council calendar laid out in advance will allow us to be efficient and strategic in terms of making sure that we get all of our budgetary requirements done in a timely fashion with sufficient time for public input. And John, you're completely right when you state that it's unfortunate that we aren't going to have our elected ward representative at the table during the budget process. But I would really urge anyone from the new part of Entity 51 to make sure that they have their voices heard during the public input session. We'll continue to communicate that so that we know that we do have good representation from our new neighbors. Do we have any questions or comments on the motion? Deputy Mayor Toole, I see your hand is up.
I just have a really quick one. I just want to commend the CAO and leadership team on all the work that's been done on the organizational capacity pillar. It's my pillar on the strategic plan that I'm responsible for, but they are really putting a lot of work into it. And it's not the super exciting stuff, but it's really, really key to running well and having the community run really well. So having these dates ahead of time lets us plan. It's really putting forth on it and making sure we're not rushing things, we're not back-ending things, and we're having the dates out there so that people in the LSC can come and can be prepared and can be ready for the presentation. So again, thanks for this. This is great. It's just one piece of a lot of stuff going on behind the scenes to make sure that everything is really well run. So thanks for that.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Tulia. Without the nuts and bolts, the machine falls apart, so they're important. So, yes, do we have any other questions or comments on the motion? There being none, all in favor? Right. Contrary minded? Motion is carried. Thank you, Council. We'll move on to item 12, bills for payment. The motion is that the Council of the Town of Grand Bay-Westfield authorize the January 10th, 2022 bills for payment as presented in the amount of $321,917.87. Do I have a motion?
I'll move that. Councillor McIntosh Lawrence.
Thank you, Councillor McIntosh Lawrence.
I'll second then, Deputy Mayor Toole.
Oh, I think, I don't know who was up first, Councillor Balcom or Deputy Mayor Toole. Councillor Balcom's closest to right there, so I'm gonna, that work? Okay. Do we have any questions on the motion?
I just have one quick one. Just the very first one. What's Hub International?
I'll refer that to the CAO, who is currently muted.
Hub International is our insurance broker.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
We have it, Councillor Balcom.
Thank you, Your Worship. I have 3 bill item numbers that I'd like to get a little bit more clarification on. I'll do them one at a time, if that's okay with Your Worship. Number 36, Greenfoot Energy Solutions, $4,628 and change for a heat pump. It's just like confirmation. What building asset is that heat pump in, and did it replace a conventional system?
You're right, Councillor. Replaced a conventional system. It's in the work garage for the utility office. So now our utility operator has a place to get warm.
Thank you and well done. Second item is number 44, Station 2 renovations, $8,625. Are these end of life cycle or near life end of life cycle needs, or are these extra improvements? I'd just like to know the nature of the renovations, please.
For the most part, Councillor, that lounge has been aging. When the firefighters come back from a call, when they return from a call, or if they're doing training or something like that, this is the area that they would meet. So some of the changes occur. The kitchen cabinets, we stock food and water and refreshments for them, because if they've been out for hours, or if they come in cold or they come in hot. New flooring, things like that. When I saw it, it was in need of an upgrade, Councillor.
Thank you very much, and I'm glad that our firefighters have a chance to have something to eat. I just wasn't sure what the renovations were for. So thank you. And finally, item number 65, ProStar Electrical Services, $21,880 and change for a generator. Where was this generator installed?
It's the same generator here at the Central. This is the overall bill. So now we've got the final bill.
Okay, thank you. That's it, Your Worship. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Councillor Balcom. Do we have any other further questions on the motion? No. I just want to thank all the councillors for combing through the bills for payment every time and really exercising your fiduciary duty on behalf of the residents of Grand Bay-Westfield. I know I appreciate it, and I'm sure that they do too. All in favor? Contrary minded? Motion is carried. Thank you, Council. Item 13, consent agenda. Item A, thank you letter, St. John Regional Hospital Foundation. Item B, letter to request continued support, and B, command of the Royal Canadian Legion. The motion is that the Council of the Town of Grand Bay-Westfield receive and file the consent agenda items for January 10th, 2022. We have a motion.
So moved. Deputy Mayor Toole.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Toole. We have a second.
Second, Councillor McIntosh Lawrence.
Thank you, Councillor McIntosh Lawrence. Do we have any questions or comments on the motion? There being none, all in favor? Contrary minded? The motion is carried. Thank you. Item 14, council reports. I'm not sure if these are going to be long or short, considering these are the first council reports since the holiday. But how close are we to curfew, John? How much time do we have?
18 minutes, Your Worship. And
okay,
so if council thinks they're going to be 19 minutes, we should make a motion authorizing us to go to 9:31.
Yeah, I think council is perfectly willing to make their council reports shorter rather than longer. I'll start with Deputy Mayor Toole.
Thank you, Your Worship. I will be quite short. It was a nice break over the holidays. Not that I didn't miss you all, but it was good for a little break. But did do some council work. I was able to, as I mentioned before, under one of the items, meet with our CAO about organizational capacity, which was great to see what's going on. I also had some of we were given a early Christmas present of a reading list of some interesting articles, so I was able to peruse some of those, which was great. And a few of the themes that came out of it for me were the importance of communication and transparency, and kind of we're going that route, and that's one of the items where we're picking up quickly as to a gap we have. So that's really good to know. So that's that. Another something I'm pleased to report that I did finish the Indigenous Canada course, and I'm really quite proud of that, because that was a quite a time commitment, and it was an excellent learning experience. So that was my other one. So that's it for me.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Toole. Councillor Bailmans. Oh, you're muted, John. Yeah. We've all done that at least once. Oh, you're still muted. Okay. Sorry, John, I'll give you a minute to figure that out if you like, and I'll move on to Councillor Day, and I'll come back to you. Is that okay? Just give me the thumbs up. Yeah, okay. Councillor Day?
Good evening, everyone. Happy New Year. As the Deputy Mayor mentioned, our CAO ensured that we were going to be busy over the Christmas holidays with a really good long reading list. I've looked at it, and that's as far as I went, but it is on the list of to-do. And I'm working with the Age Friendly to look at our renewal of our Age Friendly initiative that we have. And that's about it right now. It's quiet.
Yeah, thank you, Councillor. We're all starting to get back into the swing of things. The Councillor Balcom.
Thank you, Your Worship. I too enjoyed some of the reading that our CAO gave us. Thank you very much for that lovely Christmas present, John. I haven't finished yet. Looking forward to doing that. And I'm also very much looking forward to the next steps in the Economic Development Action Plan. working with Chris and with John and John Bailmans as well, who's also on my pillar, for population growth. And as I mentioned to the mayor in an email, I believe the population growth and the economic development plan go hand in hand. And so I'm very much looking forward to those next steps.
Thank you, Councillor Balcom. I appreciate that. And I think we've temporarily lost Councillor Bailman, so we'll move on to Councillor McIntosh Lawrence.
Yeah, so like everyone else, I had some Christmas reading to do. Didn't get through all of it, but a couple that I really liked were 5 things high-performing teams do differently. And I think that we do a few of those things, so that's good news. And the other one was, there was one there, Parks for Seniors, which was interesting to me because that's community vitality is my pillar, and talking about parks, not just for kids, but for seniors and how you can incorporate seniors into those. That was really it as a council perspective, and my other hat is on the rec committee of the RVCC, and so we've just started planning a family day event. So we'll update you with more information on that as that gets closer. It's February 21st, I think.
Okay, well that's great. Thank you, Councillor McIntosh Lawrence. And I don't see. Do we have Councillor Bailman's back on, or did we lose him? Oh, I see his name just pop back up. John, John, can you hear us?
Hello, you there?
Yes, we can hear you, John. We can't see you though yet, but we can hear you. Oh, there we go.
Okay.
Perfect timing.
Difficult problems here.
I know. It's frustrating to meet this way.
Oh,
but
it's technology.
Yeah, I know. You came in just at the right time. Stephanie just finished her council report, so it's up to you.
Oh, I have nothing to report this week. Thank you. Just a little busy week.
Oh, I bet. Anything over the holidays?
Too much to go talk about.
Okay. All right. Well, I know we're getting really short on time. Thank you to council for tackling the reading list, and thank you for John for giving it to us. I really enjoyed it. I might be the only one based on the comments, but I absolutely loved it. So thank you for that. So item 15, business arising from committee of the whole, there being none, I guess we move on to item 16, which is adjournment. And the motion is that the council of the town of Grand Bay-Westfield adjourn the meeting at 9:18 p.m. May I have a motion?
Councillor McIntosh Lawrence.
Thank you, Councillor McIntosh Lawrence. Do I have a second?
Seconded, Councillor Day.
Thank you, Councillor Day. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Contrary minded? Your motion is carried. Thank you very much. And I guess when is the next regular meeting of council? Our next regular meeting of council is January 24th. So we'll be back same time, same place then. Hopefully not virtual, but if it is, you all did a really great job tonight. Thank you very much. Good night, everybody, and happy